This is Storytelling with Puppets. And the story today is actually a song, and it's a song most kids know. It's called Old MacDonald Had a Farm. And because everyone knows it, I'm not really going to do the whole thing with puppets, but one thing about this song, it's a really good story/song to use if you haven't used puppets a lot, if you're just starting out, and you want to get sort of comfortable with puppets, and also have a good, kind of a good different time with a song that everyone knows. Another good thing about this song, because everyone knows it, they sing along right from the start, which is a big help to people like me who really don't sing well at all. I mean, really sing badly. So I don't have to do very much singing. I just get it started and then they join on. So it's Old MacDonald had a farm, and then they're all E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had, and then you use your puppet bag, and we use what we call the pop-out. Now the pop-out, this is especially with younger kids. This works with 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, pretty well with 3-year-olds, but those toddler ages are really right for this. They just love to know that a puppet's going to pop out of the bag, but they don't know what it is, and they're going to be surprised. So you start Old MacDonald, and on that farm he had a, and then you hesitate for a little bit, on that farm he had a, look down, and they're all looking at the bag, duck. And then they're singing along, E-I-E-I-O, and then they'll sing along with the quack quack here and the quack quack there. Here a quack, there a quack, everywhere a quack quack. Old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O, and then that last verse, E-I-E-I-O, you put the duck away. And on that farm he had a, and then you just pick out your next guy. And on that farm and if you're rustling around in your bag, like I am, to find your next puppet, that's okay, just heightens the anticipation. On that farm he had a sheep, and so on. So it's just the basic song, but there's that element of surprise when you bring out the puppet. And then the puppetry that you do is very simple. All you're doing is showing the puppet, and then having them do a little ba-ba here and ba-ba there, here a ba, there a ba, however you want to do it. It doesn't require a lot of motion. The puppet should kind of do the same thing, so it fits the pattern of the words of the song. And then it's back in the bag, or you can put them in another bag to make it easier and pull out the next one. So that's really all there is to it with Old MacDonald Had a Farm. You can use any animals you want. But I also like to play around with it a little bit. So I might say, and on that farm, after I've done a couple of farm animals, on that farm he had a monkey, E-I-E, and then hopefully some of the kids will say, wait a minute, you don't have a monkey on the farm. So you're just adding a little bit of a silliness and surprise to it. But at the same time, you're kind of building letting them exercise their knowledge of the world. I mean, they know what farm animals are. When they see a monkey, they know that doesn't fit the pattern, and they're identifying it. It's sort of a satisfying feeling for them to recognize what's right, what fits, and what doesn't. So you can do that with monkeys. Another good way to vary it is when you pull the puppets out of the bag, you could pop them out like this. You could go, on that farm he had a sheep, if you want to. But you can also play around with it a little bit, have them guess. On that farm he had a, oh, what do you think that is? And they might see that much of it. They might guess cow, or they might guess rabbit, or they might guess polar bear, but they're probably going to guess sheep. But that's okay, that's even better. You're right, it's a sheep, because you want them to get it right. If they don't guess it right off, you can show a little bit more. So you kind of play around with this whole pop-up, or pop-out process. You can pop it straight out, you can play around with it with some hints, and get some real engagement and some guessing and some curiosity into it. Another great thing about Old MacDonald, it's really a very handy song to know and to use with puppets. You can also do variations of it. So Old MacDonald Had a Farm is the one everyone knows. You could also say, Old MacDonald had a zoo, and on that zoo he had a monkey, and if you've got a handful of other zoo animals, you can do the same thing. So that's a natural one. You could do Old MacDonald had an ocean, and on that ocean, in that ocean, or it could be aquarium. If you want to continue MacDonald in the role of sort of curator, it can be aquarium, zoo, and farm. But it can also be jungle or ocean. But in that aquarium, he had a fish, E-I-E-I-O, and so on. It's the same thing, same pattern, but and they recognize the pattern. But you're also kind of stretching their knowledge a little bit, and their ability to identify things and their vocabulary. So you can go outside that farm animal world, which everyone who's exposed to books and is 2 years old pretty much has the farm animals down. But you can, you can go into Aquarium and you can expose them to things maybe they haven't seen, so it becomes a little bit more exciting. In that aquarium he had what's that? And some of the kids will know and some won't. An octopus. Yes, an octopus. And, you can stop and count the legs or say a word or two about octopuses if you want to, and really expand it that way. And then once you're into the aquarium, you can do the same thing. Old MacDonald had the aquarium that we did with the farm, and on that aquarium he had then you bring in sheep. Does a sheep go in an aquarium? And so again, you're kind of fostering their expertise, what they know about animals and where they belong. And it's really good, sort of intellectual development for sorting and categorizing and knowledge about animals in the real world. So start with that song, Old MacDonald. You can expand it to, in terms of the subject, to things like farms and aquariums, and you could do a haunted house if you want to, and bring out a ghost and a witch and a bat. Really anything you can think of. To do that over time, like if you have a regular storytime session and maybe you do variations of Old MacDonald for 4 weeks in a row or 6 weeks in a row, and your regulars will really see how that builds together. So it's actually a pretty powerful method of sharing a song and stories and puppets. And the other thing, the last thing I'll tell you about it is, and I usually when I use this with a story time, I will tell the parents or the caregivers about it too. This is a really easy song to do in the same way that you do as a storyteller at home. Even if they don't have puppets, you can put your hard plastic farm animals in a bag and pull them out the same way. So a grown-up can do that at home really easily with a child. A child can also do it with a grown-up. So it's a really good story for fostering early literacy and participation, and it's really just plain old MacDonald, but there's a lot you can do with it. So that's Old MacDonald with pop-outs and other variations. And that's a few ways to sing that song or tell that story with puppets.